Well, we continue after this non-existent commercial break. If we're keeping it in one video, I never actually stuck around to listen to that much.
No, we're not.
No.
Okay.
Sam's a goddamn diva. Like, he has to just he has to be in his trailer the second we stop recording.
No, I just happen to live with other people who are making. Right, number 3 slot. So this is where shit gets exciting.
We're doing the top 3, and then we're doing the group top 10.
Yep.
Where I just I'm starting to have a horrible feeling that GOP Arcade is not going to make the group top 10 anymore.
Are you? I was honestly starting to think, just from hearing games, you know what? I think GOP Arcade might make the top 10. Because, man, my list really seems shit compared to everyone else. So.
I mean, my top 3, I don't know. Well, we'll see. Number 3 for me is Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Spirits of Justice.
There it is.
Damn it.
Well, it's not on my list.
Isn't it?
It's not on my list, don't worry, because I've not played it.
Oh, thank God. Because you said there was going to be another one that matched, and I was dreading it going to be this. But yeah, Phoenix Wright, I've been a long-time fan of the series. I really love it. I never thought I'd get into a courtroom drama series, but it's just weird enough for me to really get into it. The crux of Spirit of Justice is basically Phoenix is going out of the country and practicing law in a country where defense attorneys get the death penalty for failure to defend their client. Right?
Wait, there was a YouTube series I watched years ago that was a crossover between Disgaea and Phoenix Wright that had that exact same premise. Because he had to try and defend the Satan's son. They had been accused of doing something he hadn't done, and basically their law was they are guilty and until proven innocent, and if the lawyer basically didn't, prove him innocent when he tried to, they just kill him. They stole that from a YouTube series from like 2008.
Well, the foreign country's jurisdiction, they define it as if you are defending a criminal, in defending them, you are trying to get them off the hook, thereby trying to defend someone who is guilty. So,
oh my God.
I know. But from that, it weaves into this really, really good narrative of Phoenix off in the Kingdom of Kurain, doing his thing, mixing up with some spirit medium type things, and trying to, basically overhaul the legal system in this country. While back in Japanifornia, we follow Apollo, and we haven't had a game that follows Apollo Justice since Apollo Justice, which came out in like 2008, and sort of letting him grow into his own as a lawyer, and then both plot lines come crashing together in the final case, making one of the most, epic courtroom battles I think I've come across in the series. The writing's never been better. The puns are amazingly done. And it feels like proper Phoenix Wright. It's overtaken Trials and Tribulations, which most of the Phoenix Wright fandom acknowledges as the best Ace Attorney game. This one blows it out of the water for me. It delights in its comedy, and the stories they don't backseat the comedy, but they strike that really good compromise between getting plot and character shit done and making you laugh. And it's just done the best job at it for me. So, yeah, I thoroughly recommend it to anyone who's even thought about liking Phoenix Wright.
Yeah, I get that, but I need to play through the one before it first.
Dual Destinies, that is also a very good one. Kind of flawed, but still a very good game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really all I've got to say, because it's
I can't add. Yeah, I don't know shit about Phoenix Wright, I'm afraid.
All right. My top 3, are we ready? For the game that I mentioned before as being on someone else's list.
Oh, here it comes.
Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth.
There it is.
Why now? There's so much I can say about this game. Why it's rated so high, it's out of itself, it's a classic JRPG. It's extremely similar to Shin Megami Tensei series, and also Persona. Hilariously so in terms of gameplay, but it's perhaps the most to me. It's one of the most surprising games of the year, and that's why it is so high up on my personal list. I remember the reason I got into it is I saw some of the characters and I was just like, this seems very un-Digimon. What? So I checked it out, and just from the get-go, it starts off the music's just so fantastic. I actually downloaded the free theme to the game. Just so on my home screen, I just have the jazzy main title music playing constantly.
Fair.
And music kicks off. The art is great. The designs are memorable. The characters are fun. It's a game that tells a story for a franchise that has never really done the best at telling stories. It has some flaws. It's very grindy. And the side quests can get obnoxious in terms of them having to be mandatory, which kind of defeats the purpose of being a side quest, but it makes sense. But it makes sense if you actually play it. But even despite those flaws, it's still just perhaps one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had with an RPG. Like, I would happily put more hours into it. In fact, when I finish this round of January games, I'm probably going to go back and have another playthrough of it because it's just that fun. It's it's rare to find a game which makes the grind feel fun, raising stuff up, digivolving, having to spend all this time managing attributes and types and advantages to just sitting there working stuff out. It's one of the most engaging experiences I've had with video games for quite a while. And a follow-up to Cyber Sleuth, a direct sequel.
Oh yeah, that's that First Order thing. Or Last Order.
Next Order. It's a direct sequel actually to the first PlayStation 1 Digimon World game.
Oh dang, I love that game.
Yeah, the protagonists of the first game appear.
Fuck, I need this game.
Balls hard though. You won't want to play on easy, which doesn't affect the challenge. I learned that playing on easy doesn't actually affect the challenge of the battles. It just makes it so stats are doubled in terms of when you level up, as opposed to how they are now, which is you have to spend like 7 in-game days just leveling up to ultimate.
Well, yeah, that was kind of how it was in the original. Like, the original was not a very good or balanced game. You couldn't really give your Digimon orders unless you had them to like 200 intelligence. Until that point, you could give them suggestions.
No, you can give them orders from the start in this game.
Oh, fuck it, I don't care. It's not the same if you have to earn their respect.
Well, that's because the game will kick you in the crotch if you don't. But yeah, my number 3. So over to you, Yuki.
Right, let's talk about something that none of you know anything about whatsoever, and people who are watching this video may well have already heard me talk about. Zero Time Dilemma, the first and final game in the Zero Escape series that is really hard to talk about, to convince people to play it or whatever, because if you haven't played the first 2 games, don't touch it with a barge pole. Don't even go anywhere near this game. None of it will make sense. It's all pointless. This is not a game that's like, hey, maybe you could get into this series, because either of the first 2, you could play them either way around and it would be fine. This game is straight up saying, if you have not played both of the first 2, I don't know what you're doing. You're wasting your time. None of this is going to make any sense. And if you have played them, you already know the story, so kind of goes on from that. It's not as good as the first 2, if you ask me, honestly. It's kind of just wraps up some of the story elements. I feel like it would be higher if maybe it wrapped up all of them, considering it's the last game in the series, please and thank you. No? Okay. We're just going to have some nice big plot holes just sitting there, and that's going to bug me for the rest of eternity. But it's a great game. Still really fun, just as fun as the first 2. I think I preferred the first 2 just because I was satisfied when I got to the end that it left enough questions to be answered, but I knew that they weren't the last one. This one still leaves a bunch of questions unanswered, but they said it's the last one, so it's like, I don't need more questions, though. It's not like one of those rhetorical questions. It's like, no, you straight up do not know this fact. It doesn't make any sense. So that's a bit disappointing, but having played the first 2, I don't see any way I wouldn't have enjoyed this one, to be honest. I wish I had more to say, but I really don't, and I know no one else does either. So.
Well, I'm really glad you said it's only worth playing if you've played the first 2, because this was on my list of things I wanted to play this year or last year and didn't. but I've not played any of the other Zero Time games, so I feel pretty good now.
I have good news for everyone. This year, they're releasing one game that has all 3 of them on. So anyone who is even remotely interested in this series, you have no excuse anymore. I don't know, it's coming out on, I think, 3DS and Steam. It's just a pack of all 3 of them. So just get that and then play them in order. Do what I didn't do. I played them in the wrong order. I played the first game second because I had no idea the second game was a sequel. None of the games have the franchise name in their title.
Yeah, the first one's like 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. The second one's Virtue's Last Reward.
Yep. And then the last one's Zero Time Dilemma. None of them say... The franchise is actually called Zero Escape. Nowhere on the box or in the games or anything does it tell you that. But if you try to Google it and find the Wikipedia page, it's called Zero Escape. Go figure.
There is actually a serious good chance that that'll be on my list next year, because they look exactly like the sort of thing I'd love to play.
In all honesty, even though I've already played all 3, when the set comes out on Steam for all 3 of them, I'm probably going to buy it. I'm probably going to play it because I really want to do a video talking about all the different interesting aspects of the game that I feel like a lot of people probably overlook or no one's played the game. So it will probably be on my list next year, even though they won't have improved the graphics or anything. But fuck it, I love that. Probably, if Pokemon didn't exist, would be my favourite video game franchise. Even though there's only 3 games in it, I love them that much.
Oh,
I really recommend them highly.
I mean, hey, at least your series has multiple games in it.
Sorry, Sam.
That's okay.
But to be fair, I don't think it's for everyone. I feel like it's a kind of game, if you played the first one and didn't enjoy it that much, while the next two are technically better, maybe it's not for you.
Well, for the sake of the people who want to, the release is going to be called Zero Escape, the Nonary Games. It bundles the first 2 games and will release on March 24th, 2017 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4 and PS Vita.
Oh, wow, it's coming out on PS4 as well. I always forget it's a Vita franchise because I just got it on the DSs.
Yeah, there's nothing here about a 3DS release for the Nonary games, but...
Of course there isn't. But to be honest, they didn't do a physical release for this one in this country because I kept being like, man, I'm trying to find it in the shop and I can't find it anywhere. And I end up Googling it. They're like, oh yeah, Europe's not getting a physical release. I guess the sales are so bad they didn't bother. So I was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, we were lucky to get a physical release of Digimon Story because we didn't think we'd get that for a long time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Did.
But yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Go play Zero Escape, it's fun.
Okay.
You've been telling me for years. I will get around to it eventually.
Right, here's a game that Yuki's played. Came out last year. Yuki enjoyed it, but I guess he didn't enjoy it as much as Pokken Tournament because he didn't put it on his list. Number 3 on my... What's that?
Unless it's higher.
Well, he said the other 2 on his list had already been on other people's lists.
Yeah, I think everyone knows what my next 2 are.
Oh, yeah.
So number 3 on my list is Speedrunners.
I haven't played Speedrunners this year, have I? I'm pretty sure I haven't. I've only played it like once.
I don't think you played it this year, but it had its official release this year. And
I honestly have no idea that game wasn't already out because I've literally played it once with you.
We played it in alpha, and also even from the once you played it, you should have ranked it higher than Pokken.
Well, yeah, both that and Twilight Princess. To be honest, it would have easily made 9th on my list. I had no idea that came out this year because I didn't play it this year, so why would I have known that? Apologies, people of the world. I guess Speedrunners is 9th on my list. It's a fun game. You run fast. There you go. That's what I had.
Yeah, it's a mix between M+ and sort of racing, basically. M+ is a little platformer where you can do like lots of wall jumps, and this has lots of wall jumps, and there's power-ups like there are in Mario Kart, but it's an entirely 2D racing game, which I think is really good, just mixing sort of racing with the wall jumping with power-ups. It's nice. It's a very dialed down, very party game-ish approach to racing, which people obviously appreciate because Mario Kart's so huge, and this just adds like a new way of doing racing games. Like rather than being in a cart, you're a person with a grappling hook and wall jumps, and I really, really enjoy that. It's a game that has been in Humble Bundles so many damn times that you can I can't recommend buying it at full price. It's so often in humble bundles, it's ridiculous, and you can just get it for $1 or whatever.
I'll buy that for $1.
You should buy that for $1. Like literally, when it, I've said to people like, I don't know what else is in the humble bundle, but Speedrunners is in it, and it's worth that much. It's got its own level editor if you wanted to make your own levels. The characters in it are very stupid, which I enjoy, and a lot of them are pun based as well. Like there's a guy who's dug himself out of his own grave called Skullduggery, and that's just brilliant. Yeah, that's one of the two party games on my list. The other being Move or Die. Very silly, very quick, but also like the reason I put this one higher than Move or Die is that it's actually got a fair bit of. There's actually a bit of a skill ceiling to it because like learning how to use the grappling hooks to like optimize your momentum is actually quite a difficult thing to learn how to do. So that's not only is it my number 9, my number 3, it's Yuki's honorary number 9, Speedrunners.
I should point out, it's like Mario Kart without the rubber banding and blue shells.
Yeah, there's
okay, the
none
things
of
that
that.
make it not fun. Like, it doesn't have any of that. It's completely fluid the whole way through. So, it is a very fun game.
And also, like, just to counter that, you're thinking, well, what if I fall behind? It's done in rounds, and it's the first to 3 rounds. So, like, if you lose one round, like, who cares? That's a third of the victory for someone else. So it's okay to just fall very far behind and lose one round. And that'll happen sometimes, you know? You will just get frozen on an uphill and you'll just slide down the hill again because you won't be able to move and you're an ice block. And that happens and it's fine.
Another thing you should mention is if you do fall behind in one specific lap or whatever, it will just kill you, so you don't have to think, well, I'm racing for no point, I might as well stand still. It will just wipe you out and let the people in front go on, so you don't have to do anything.
Exactly. Like, get a drink and like have a chocolate or whatever. You're just out of it for a bit, and that's all right. And you can spam
the Snickers.
Yeah, and you can just spam the stupid voice commands like "good job, good job, good job" every time anyone messes anything up.
I didn't know it had voice commands. That makes it even better.
Yeah, it's really obnoxious as well.
That makes it all the better. It's got to be obnoxious. To be fair, that is just like me in Mario Kart. Between rounds in Mario Kart, I always used to just spam the voice thing that was like "one more time." I was just singing in my head the what's it called song?
One more time.
I can't remember who sings it, but yeah.
Daft Punk.
Daft Punk, that's
surely. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got some points for. Do you mind me putting that as if it was your number 9?
Yes, please. I would. To be honest, it'd probably be number 8. Actually, Lost Reavers wasn't very good as a game.
Okay. I'm just sort of. I've got a points thing for working out the end game list.
Cool. Can I put minus points for Twilight Princess and Pokken because I didn't like them?
I mean, I doubt that they
on
would
the
be top
off
10.
chance they might accidentally be in the total top 10, I want to give them minus points.
Oh dang.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Sam, what is your number 2?
Oh fuck yeah! I'm involved, aren't I?
You are.
Right. My number 2 has already been on this list. And it is Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Now, contrary to what Train thought of this, I actually think it took everything from Human Revolution and improved it in basically every way. It's a beautiful game, for one thing. It is, you actually see daylight, which you can't really say about Human Revolution. You really feel like you're embroiling a lot more in the conspiracy, which you can argue Human Revolution did better because it more hinted at sort of this bit underneath the surface of where exactly things are going, and you're just hacking up various different reports and little things that nod forward or backward or whatever. in this one, it feels like you're more getting into the meat of the conspiracy, and that feels a lot more rewarding. It feels like you're actually making a bit more of an influence in terms of the story direction, which you can't, because we still have the first game in the series to get to, which is set like 20 years later. But like the ending of this especially blows Human Revolutions out of the water, because you feel like even if it doesn't matter, what you have done to get this choice available does. If that makes any sense.
No, it doesn't. Please explain.
Okay, so the final level, shall we say, of Mankind Divided can result in nobody dead, a hell of a lot of people dead, some people dead, or 3 very specific people either dead or alive, and all 3 of those people factor into the conspiracy very, very high. So it's a lot of circumstances that leave a lot of room to be explored. Its detriment is that it is very clearly gearing up towards another game, as sort of like an Adam Jensen trilogy, which, okay, fine. And that game will be better if, unlike this game, it actually adapts based on what happened in this game. They kind of built this game with the exception, with the case of here are the 4 endings you could have chosen in Mankind Divided. None of them happened. This is what really happened.
I mean, you say endings in Human Revolution.
I know. There wasn't.
There was any. Which button do you press?
There's which button do you press, or fuck you. That's essentially your choices. And I will not defend that.
As much as I might like Revolution, its endings are garbage.
Exactly, which is why I prefer Mankind Divided so much.
We'll see if it goes anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see if it goes anywhere. And ultimately, a 3rd game in this trilogy may negatively impact on this one. But I believe it did everything that Human Revolution did, and then some, and better. So I think it kind of earns that. Even the side quests, like, I get what you were saying about the side quests earlier, Trade. And I admit they're a little hard to actually dig up and find in a few cases. But
it's not even that. It all feels such smaller scale than the last game that it's weird, because in fiction there has to be a sense of escalation, right? Things go from. But
yeah.
But for Mankind Divided, it's also focused on Prague and the area around Prague. And it just seems weird, because the last game was globe-trotting adventure to uncover the various evil plots, whereas with Mankind Divided, uncovering the evil plots it just feels more like a secondary thing, to be honest. Primary thing just seems to be, people who have augments are like an allegory for racism.
Yeah.
And it feels like it lost out the plot just because of that, because it was focused so much on the racism. Oh man, look at how we're segregating these people who are augmented. Look how we're segregating people based solely on their appearances.
It's not based on their appearances, though. It's based on the fact that this guy can punch out a wall. Does he really qualify as human?
I'm not saying it's a perfect allegory, a perfect representation, but it's still clearly what they're trying to draw parallels to.
Well, sure it is, but you can see how that allegory comes about. Like, it's a more understandable fear. And I'm not justifying it, of course, but
it's all presented in the game itself. It just feels weird in that regard, as to how, like, it does just feel like a scale down from the first game.
I'd argue seeing as it actually embroils you more in the sort of, the for and against of augmentation, the actual impact it's having on the people of the world, an understandable follow-on from a horrific incident not the first game, but the previous game. It does a whole lot of world building, and, I love me some world building. And just being able to appeal to that and actually get into it, I feel that does a lot more than Human Revolution did. Human Revolution, it was always like, the augmentation argument was always a part of the backdrop, but it never really came to the forefront, if that makes sense.
Which I don't think it ever needed to, though. We can spend thinking about this. I think it's best if we just wrap it up here.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, that's why I think it's good, because it's better and it's good, and God, I love it, and I want to go play it again because I need to. So yeah, Train, you're number 2.
I know that is definitely not on anyone else's list. World of Final Fantasy.
Oh.
Now,
Genuinely not.
Cyber Sleuth would have been number 2, except earlier last month I bought and played World of Final Fantasy, and yeah, everything I loved about Cyber Sleuth, World of Final Fantasy did, but a little bit better. It still has the same kind of capture your monsters and raise them up and evolve them and such that, Cyber Sleuth has, and it still has and it's got all of an interesting plot. The difference is, though, is that World of Final Fantasy has the whole history of Final Fantasy it messes around with, and I do mean messes around with. The whole thing is it's a crossover game. You've got characters from numerous major titles. Almost every main numbered Final Fantasy has a representative in it in some form or another. What?
12 dozen.
That's why I said almost.
Yeah.
Although, fun fact, 12 is getting one soon. I saw someone tweeting about it.
Some form or another, every game is referenced, and not even just from Final Fantasy games. There's a Xenogears. Xenogears gets a reference in an optional boss in the game, which is surprising because Square was trying to pretend that game never existed. It's such a send-up. It's not even just building nostalgia, though. It's just so fun. It's funny. It's charming. Yeah, sometimes some of the little critical characters can be annoying, but it's annoying in an endearing way, like how Pikachu, whenever he opens his mouth, you kind of want to punch him in the face, but he's still cute.
I mean, I guess.
I've never had that desire, but
I have it all the time.
Train, you have the desire when anyone opens their mouth.
And also thinks they're all cute.
I'm getting that desire right now.
Yeah. Not surprised.
I mean, I was going to mention this as the consistency thing, but Square brings back all of its classic VAs, and Square will not also make fun of itself. There's a very particular moment where they outright mock the infamous, even Final Fantasy X laughing scene. It's just so fun and charming, and everything about it's just so. It reminds me of the tagline for Final Fantasy 15, which is a Final Fantasy for newcomers and old players alike. And to be honest, I want to give that title to World of Final Fantasy because everything about it just screams this is for new people and people who have loved this franchise for years and years and years. I mean, there's just something so much fun about having Celeste and Cloud arguing about going into an opera together.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. I've seen one of my people, Kenny, stream about it, and it looks fun. I will play it eventually, but I can't get over the fact that the mnemonic for the game is WAF.
Oh well.
Is that all that gets you? Seriously?
It irritates. It's not all that gets me. The fact that Shulk from Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus gets in when nobody from 12 does, that irks me a lot more.
There's a reason for that.
I don't give a fuck what the reason is. A shitty side game to, admittedly, one of the most popular entries of the series, I won't deny, gets a character in when 12 doesn't.
Also, Kari Walgren has recently done work with Square, and that might be another reason as to why, because they do have the English cast in mind a lot of the time.
Yeah, okay, Kari Walgren is the voice of Ash in Final Fantasy XII. If they got her back, then there's no excuse.
I don't know what to tell you then. Maybe they just thought 12 would be harder to work in than any of the other Final Fantasies they did.
Maybe they just thought 12 was the best one and they only wanted to take the piss out of things. Like, 12 is too perfect.
Yeah, I'd believe that, but at the same time, I want Chibi Balthier, damn it.
Oh, lucky for you that there's DLC coming out soon.
Okay, but I don't have the game yet.
Well, no, but I'm just meaning Balthier is the person they're putting in from 12, so...
Of course he is. I mean, no one remembers anyone else apart from maybe Gabranth.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's my number 2.
Hey guys,
sorry,
try and guess what my number 2 is.
Pokemon Sun and Moon.
How did you know? This boy's psychic and/or watched my video. preferably the second one, but yeah.
Alternatively, your friend. How crazy is that?
I mean, that game I've never heard of could have been number 2. You don't know.
I don't want to brag or anything, but I hear if I do Sidebeam, it does have stab damage.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. The thing is, I don't really want to say too much about why I fucking adore this game, and would argue that it is the best Pokemon game ever. Main series Pokemon game, I should point out. Because I want to do an entire video on this same very channel, specifically talking about that. And if you've already watched this and listened to me ramble about why I think Pokemon Sun and Moon is so good, you're not going to watch that. So instead, I will answer questions from the rest of you as to why it's so high. Well, 2 of you probably guessed, but I know one of you doesn't like it that much, if I'm not mistaken. Reese?
Oh, I just think the introduction is like hella long and hella story oriented, and I just want every character to shut up so I can make my little bird fight the other little birds and maybe a rat or two. I don't hate it. It's just, you know how Sam earlier mentioned he has an extreme for long introductions. I am the opposite. It is super effective against me, if you will.
And yet you've played Kingdom Hearts 2, a game which has one of the longest and most obnoxious tutorials in the world.
And I remember nothing about it except that tutorial.
That's an interesting way to pronounce Persona 4, Sam.
Hey, Persona 4 is also amazing. And I admit, it has a fucking stupid long tutorial.
No, but Persona 4 has, like, far worse, because that's a legitimate 2-hour tutorial and build-up.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2, it's 3.
It's not 3, it's like an hour and a half.
Nope.
We'll have to do a race.
Well, honestly, in the case of Pokemon, honestly didn't even notice that I was in a tutorial for that long. I noticed it was a bit longer than previous Pokemon games. But then, like, after the school section, I thought, well, okay, are we out of tutorial time now? I guess so. I never noticed it after that. So I'm guessing maybe either people took too long to get there, or maybe there's still tutorial after that and I didn't even realise it was being tutorial. I like the character development. We haven't had that since Black and White, which, don't get me wrong, I like Black and White, but there's also this whole argument of how much I hate Black and White. I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of this Emolga Pokemon that may encompass all of my hatred of that certain generation. But yes, I'm not going into that now because we're talking about good games we like. Pokemon Sun and Moon is cool. If you like Pokemon and you haven't played it, you don't like Pokemon very much.
There's loads of good things about Sun and Moon, which I know are absolutely facts. Like, you do not use HMs anymore. There's just like, you summon Pokemon and they do the thing for you, and that's great. And you get the experience, the good experience share, really early on, and that lets you try out loads of different things on your team. And like, all of the designs, it feels like they've been in a rough patch with new designs for a while, and it really feels like they've shaped it up this time.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But I'm just at the moment, I just wanted to get stuck in immediately, and I have zero patience.
Yeah, okay, I can understand that.
Once I have literally more than 10 minutes of patience in me, I'm sure I'm going to go back and like hate myself that I've not got it on my list.
That's fair. I feel like maybe the long story tutorial bit at the beginning, maybe I didn't hate it so much because I went into this game expecting to hate it. Like, I don't know if anyone remembers before it came out when I was avoiding the internet for like 3 months, but I went into Sun and Moon just thinking, this game's going to be garbage. Everything I've seen about it, I've been really like down on it and not looking forward to it at all. So then I was gradually building into the, oh wait, this game's not garbage, even though they made my favourite Pokemon like evil and fat now, I guess, whatever, but I mean, whatever. The game's still fun, you know?
I think another thing that influences your ability to get through the introduction is you don't hate Lily with the same passion I do.
See, okay, I'm gonna have to.
Fuck.
No, I'm genuine here. I have seen lots of people that agree with my side of the point, and then there are like a select few people that are just saying Lily is the worst character in all video game history, and I do not understand where this mindset comes from. She's the first character in a Pokemon game they've actually developed into a fucking character.
Yeah.
She is, obviously I do not know that. At the moment, she is just a catchphrase. and like it's
Okay,
very hard
alright.
to develop a catchphrase
Alright.
that early. And I don't
I've
mean just
out.
from the memes. I
have
mean
just...
in the actual game in itself. She says "get in the bag" like constantly,
That's
and
fair.
I can't stand it.
That's fair. I completely 100% understand why people hate her now. It's the Undertale effect. If you've heard things about the game before you play it, I completely... I didn't even think of that being a catchphrase or a meme or anything while I was playing it. I didn't even notice her saying it that much. Maybe like 2 or 3 times. And I just kind of ignored it as like, whatever. They're trying to make a joke or something, I guess. And then it was after playing it where everyone was saying, I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is a meme. Whatever, sure.
That's the thing. I didn't know about the meme until after I had played it and got annoyed with it. And then it was like it compounded on how annoyed I was by it. I was annoyed, and then I discovered that everyone had made it into a meme.
All right, well, I guess we went into
not to want to be a hipster about disliking a catchphrase of a character in a Pokemon game, because that's some next level bullshit right there. But, like, it didn't come from memes.
In complete fairness to Reese, Lily's actual influence on the plot kicks in a lot later than to where I suspect he's played. So
that is fair. At the beginning, she's just kind of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pokemon. I like it.
Yeah. So Reese, you're number 2.
Okay. My number 2 isn't on anyone else's list, but I know someone else here bloody loves the game. It's just that it's a re-release, and so they'd have played it at a different time. I've got Danganronpa 2: Goodbye Despair as my number 2.
Okay, before you continue, 2 things, because I know the person you're talking about is me. 1, I have never played a Danganronpa game.
Oh, really? Okay.
2, please don't spoil it for me. I really want to play them. I've watched the animes, but I have not ever. I've never had a chance to play it because until they came out on Steam, which would have been last year, yes, I hadn't.
Yeah.
I didn't have a fucking PSP Vita, whatever the fuck they came out with before. I would have played them.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Carry on what you're gonna say. Just don't spoil anything.
Yeah, that's fine. Technically, the first Danganronpa should probably be on my list as well, but I didn't want to take up 2 spots with Danganronpa games, so that's like an honorary mention for sure. It's a detective game. It's anime as hell. It's story focused, and so it's blowing a lot of the rules about what sort of games I normally like. It's like so Japanese, it does actually sometimes hurt, but it's okay because the characters are they are all stereotypes, but like they just completely run away with it, and I don't care anyway. The reason why I've picked number 2 over number 1 is mainly because I really dislike, and I'm not going to spoil it, I dislike where the end game goes with both of them. And the thing that sets number 2 above number 1 is that number 2 starts going into the end game territory later than number 1 does, if that makes sense. But yeah, I really, in the basic premise, it's okay to talk about the basic premise, right?
Oh, yeah, I know the basic premise. Like I said, I've watched the show.
Yeah, basically, some people are gathered together, and all of them are the ultimate at something, and some of them are the ultimate at very legitimate things. Like, oh god, I'm trying to think of any of the legitimate ones at the moment, and I can't. Like, there's the ultimate chef and the ultimate pop star, whereas like some of them are on the level of the ultimate lucky student, and this person is just the luckiest. And you're told by this character Monokuma that you're in a killing game. And the way you get out of the situation you're in is to kill one of the other students and get away with the murder. And so everyone's very suspicious of each other. And there's obviously, like, it's hard to know who you can trust and who you can't. And it revolves around sort of detective work, figuring out who was the murderer in each case. And it's, like I say, it's anime as hell. It's got loads of quick time events. It's like, it's plot driven. It's so many things I don't normally like, but in this, I really liked all of them. I guess it's a case of like 4 different wrongs make a right, or something like that. I think that's all I've got to say about Danganronpa 2, because I can't talk about the plot at all.
It kind of sucks, because if Danganronpa 1 was the one on here, the first anime is just the story of Danganronpa 1 retold in the show, so I know that one.
Yeah.
But 2, I was literally like, I know nothing about it, spare from like a few characters' names and what they're the ultimate of. So.
Oh, literally? You don't even know that? Okay.
No,
wow.
Some of them I know, but not all of them. Because, I mean, I've never sat there and looked through all of them, so why would I?
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, the game's sense of humour is really good. Not just the characters are funny to each other, but like Monokuma will like directly talk to the player sometimes. And he's like, hey, a bit of advice, like, if you ever need some money, just start crowdfunding. Idiots will crowdfund anything. Like Danganronpa 2 itself was crowdfunded.
Where's the lie?
So I love stuff like that. Yeah, that's as much as I can say without pressing anything Yuki wouldn't want to hear. So, Sam, what is your number one?
Well, I'll just preface this by saying I'm surprised that game was your number 2, because I expected it to be number 1 for you.
Well, my number 1, we'll get to it, but it might be a problem. We might have a problem with my number 1.
Oh, might come to fisticuffs. Okay. My top game of 2016 is Fire Emblem Fates. More specifically, the Conquest route. And I say this because all the routes are different games, annoyingly enough. Fire Emblem is a tactical RPG where it focuses around building up supports between different members of your army. In the cases of Fates and Awakening, these supports can lead to marriage, which can lead to children, which gives you more units, because time is bullshit. But the idea of Fates is there are 2 warring kingdoms, Hoshido and Nor. You are a royal of one of these who has been kidnapped by the other royal family. And then it comes to a point where you have to decide who you side with, the more classically good and more wholesome and vibrant land of Hoshido, or the corrupt but somewhat suffering kingdom of Nor. And how you're going to resolve this conflict from either side, or in the third path, by not choosing a side. It is a game that's built on replayability and being able to discover all the various characters of the units that make up your armies, which ones are useful in combat, being able to grow them into their own through various job classes, getting them the right abilities so they can absolutely dominate. My version of Corin, the main character, in my most recent playfile, she can not only duplicate herself, but she gets an extra turn whenever she kills someone, and that's for each duplicate.
Wait, what? She can copy herself and gets extra turns, and all of the copies can get extra turns.
Well, it's a case of she has a skill called Replicate, which creates a doppelganger of her that shares her health. And these doppelgangers have an ability called Gale Force, which when they attack, they get an extra turn. This does only trigger once, but that still means that from one unit, you can essentially get 4 attacks.
From one thing, many things.
From one thing, many things. Especially when this one thing is equipped with one of I think 3 legendary swords in the game. There are some aspects of it that can get a bit eugenics-y. Because the stats of the children characters are dependent on who their parents are, and in this case, like the fathers will have specific children, and their stats will be determined by both them and whoever the mother is. So it does start getting into a bit who will have what stats if I pair up these specific soldiers.
Well, let's just Interesting turn.
Yeah, it's the most popular form of eugenics I think I've ever come across. But it is still a very good game. The conquest path is a lot more difficult, but it offers a lot more in terms of development of characters and isn't like a classically simple, they're the evil kingdom, go and slay them. It gets a lot more into the political intrigue and what is actually happening in the world of Fate, which is enlightened more upon in the Revelation path, but that one's not quite as good. So, yeah, I figured it would only be right to say Conquest is the best of them, but as a whole, the game is my number one. Easily. I was wondering, just like, is there going to be any surprise in this? But...
Not at all. In fact, if you'd have said anything but Fire Emblem being your top one, I'd have called blasphemy and said, "Oi, bring Sam back in here so he can tell us his number one is Fire Emblem."
It was honestly between Fire Emblem, Deus Ex, and Phoenix Wright. It was a really close heat.
Okay, to be fair, if it was second and Phoenix Wright was first, I'd understand. But it's Fire Emblem. Since Awakening, you have been obsessed with that game.
I can't help it.
I'm not blaming you. I've started playing the mobile one and I've started realizing why people like it. It's really fun. So.
Yeah. Is it my go now?
Yeah.
Come on, before you go, I just want to say, because we know what Yuki's last game is, and it's something. I know you've got that GOP arcade.
Oh, right.
And because it's a game we can all talk about, I would like to do that last because it seems like it'd be a nice one to end on. So Train can go now, and then I'll just jump before Yuki, if that's all right.
All right then.
Because mine might piss people off, and I don't want to end on that.
Oh man, I'm excited now.
Then, amongst my lot of RPGs and games with RPG elements. So, to cap it all off, my game of the year for 2016 is Doom.
Cool. Yeah, no.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, not a surprise at all.
Why is Doom so good? A game that has fundamentally stupid and boring multiplayer. A game that is a reboot of a popular franchise that hasn't been popular for nigh on 20 years. That's because Doom is fucking amazing. Because Doom understands it. Doom is a game that has complete understanding of itself and what it needed to be. From the very first where you're introduced to the player character, Doom Guy, who is called by many other things, but let's be honest, he's still going to be John Doom Guy. How you're introduced to him, wakes up on a bed, a mysterious voice starts to talk to him, and then he just rips that voice off of the wall and goes off and does his own thing. The second you start playing the game, you're introduced to visceral combat, and I do mean visceral. Rip and tear should very well have been a tagline to the game. It's explosive, and everything I say is literal. Explosive, fun, gory, just over-the-top games. And surprisingly enough, it reinvents the shooter genre by taking it straight back to the roots. There's no reload times. There's none of this bullet time stuff. It's just... And there's no regenerating health. The only way you get health back, you kill more enemies. It's a game that encourages you to get back in the fight all the time, to never stop being on the offensive, to never stop being aggressive, because that's the kind of game it is. You're fighting against the legions of hell. You gotta be a badass to do this. It has great sense of progression, great escalation in terms of its stuff. I always like how they introduce new enemy types as mini bosses, and then next level you're now fighting remember those guys that gave you trouble? Yeah, you're fighting two of them now. But the weapons the upgrades you get, they all scaled fantastically, so it can be challenging, but it's also a fair challenge. Its story is utterly irrelevant. It's Doom. It's Doom. Do you know what the story is? The story is there's demons in hell and you're on Mars. Fuck the rest of it. You have a shotgun. Who cares? Doom is one of the progenitors of. It's one of the greats of video gaming. Without it, we wouldn't have FPSs. And people may or may not despise FPSs after the last decade or so. But Doom has gone back to the roots. It has stripped away all of the all the complexity and the convolution, and it has become a superior game to everything that's followed on from it by doing so. It went against the survival horror elements they tried to introduce with the third game, which were a mixed bag, to say the least. It is in perfect control of itself. It is so self-aware that it's charming. As much as you might say, but there's no story, there's as much story as there needs to be in Doom. And the story is, you have a shotgun, there's demons, go crazy.
I've got Doom. Like, I literally own it, and you're regret having not played it right now.
There you are.
I knew it would be on your list. I didn't. I don't know if I am surprised or not. Hearing you talk about it, I'm like, of course he's gonna think all that, and I really, I feel like I've missed out on a party, you know.
And on the other hand, it did make my Doom presentation all that much more rich.
That's true.
Why not? Reese said Doom is like his number 5. Well, here's why Reese is wrong, and it's actually the best game of 2016. No questions.
All I'm gonna say is, when it comes to the end and we're battling out like the multiple games that are like tied, I am gonna kind of campaign for Doom, even over my own game, I think.
I don't blame. Doom is one of these games transcended being played because just watching it is fun.
That's the thing. It looks. I said earlier, one of the things I really like is just the pure visceral joy, and like watching Doom is just like you get engrossed in it. You know,
you can't get more visceral than Doom.
You actually can't.
Around the time you rip out something's eye and then punch its empty eye socket till it bleeds to death, you have to.
That's the thing. It mixes like the Mortal Kombat level gore, except there is no equal to you. You're just this machine that won't stop.
One of the greatest things about the game is that as you progress, you can find the kind of classic audio logs that tell you the details of the research base, but then you can find the demon logs, which talk about this nigh unstoppable force of absolute destruction that devastated hell for millennia until they managed to seal it back up.
And spoiler alert, it's you.
Well, it's not really a spoiler alert. It's like the first 5 minutes. It's, oh, by the way, there is this absolute ungodly is like the equivalent of Satan for hell. And I love that. I love that there's something. I love that you're basically playing the boogeyman to the bad guys, and the game admits it. Like, oh yeah, to the enemies, you are the most terrifying thing imaginable. Like, it's one to play like Devil May Cry, and you do stylishly kill and slaughter your way for everything, but the enemies never react. It's another thing to actually be in a game where enemies are probably very legitimately scared of you.
Fair.
Number 1. So Reese, tell me why we're going to hate you for your choice.
I love it. It begins with a sigh.
You can't help what you fall in love with, okay?
It's fine, man. We're not going to judge you.
People who know me know that Morrowind has been my favourite game of any game for a long time. And, like, if I ever even question that status might be going down, then generally that's a legendary time. And this is one of 3 games that has made me do that. It is a game which, it's alongside Pokemon Go, is like one of the 2 big things in gaming that has sort of stirred up controversy in 2016. My number 1 is No Man's Sky.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, where do we even begin?
I know. I should start by saying I have not played it in a while, so I don't know anything about this base building shit. And I don't care to be honest. Doesn't seem like my kind of thing, so I'm not bothered. I from my understanding of No Man's Sky, I play it in a very different way to how other people play it. I basically play it as like Pokemon Snap, except you can never ever finish or even get 0.0001% of it done. And just there's something to feeling like a tiny insignificant speck that will never amount to anything in this vast universe which so strongly doesn't care about you at all, which I'm just in love with. And I love upgrading my little ship, and I love mining for stuff. It's been something that's like helped me like actually not feel anxiety in real life by just losing myself in how ridiculously massive the video game is and how expansive it is and how pretty everything is. I have played only 40 hours of it because I only play it when I'm like quite down and it's like a mood resetter. And I have over 1,800 screenshots. And I like actually go back and I look at those screenshots sometimes because I just love how everything looks. I am now aware that other people may have developed opinions on No Man's Sky, and so let's talk about those as I raise my mental riot shield.
I'll come in first and say I've never played the game, never had any intention of playing it. Only thing that annoyed me was them straight up lying about the game beforehand. Apart from that, I can understand your reasoning. I have no problem with that. That's a fair argument. Probably won't be number one on our complete 10 games of the year list, but just putting that one out there.
That's fine. I'm willing to say that like anything else that has the same amount of points as No Man's Sky should go ahead of No Man's Sky, because like earlier on I was talking about Pony Island and I was like, even though it's not even in my top 5, it's the game I'd recommend the most. And like the exact reverse is true here. Even though No Man's Sky is my number 1, it's the game I'd recommend the least. And one thing that a lot of defenders of No Man's Sky do is like say, oh, they never said there was going to be multiplayer. What they said is the odds of you meeting another player are very, very small, so small that it will never happen. When you say it like that, that implies there is going to be multiplayer. So yes, I side with the people who are angry about the multiplayer. I also side with the people who say like there's not a lot to do in that game. I get a very weird enjoyment out of it, which is not related to like anything that was intended to be put in the game, I think. So like I'm trying to be rational about all of the criticism, I think.
That's fair. I must admit I have no real negative opinions on this game. I still think it's a bloody miracle it got made.
I know. It's just a couple of people from Guildford, which is like not even far from where we are, and there's 18 quintillion planet-sized planets. And I remember doing the maths at one point of like how long it would take for us to all find all of the 18 quintillion planets. And it was like, if all 7 billion people on the planet are working towards it and finding like 60 planets per second, which is obviously impossible, it would still take us longer than our lifetimes. Just the numbers of it, I just get lost how ridiculously expansive it is. I love that I'll never complete even a small piece of it. I love that anyone I've ever talked to about it who hasn't immediately stabbed me has a completely different playing experience to me. I'm lost in it. I love it.
I gotta say, your arguments are fair, but I think that would be the main reason why I never want to touch it. Knowing that I can't complete it would drive me fucking nuts.
Yeah,
when Jordan started that one game on my Xbox 360 years ago, that he straight up knew that one of the achievements on it was glitched and it was never finishable, my brain just went mental. Like, I was like, so you're saying this whole time I've been trying to get every achievement in all these games, it's now worthless, and I just totally stopped ever going for achievements all that time ago because of that. I don't even touch the Xbox 360 anymore. That's how crazy that is to me. I could never play that game.
No, I completely appreciate that, and also like I think that's part of what I like about it. It's like it feels like the only game I've ever played that like doesn't really care about me as a player, and I guess in a masochistic or sadistic kind of way, I kind of like that. This is like it's not hard in any way. It's just like the game makes no allowances to make everything super easy and super possible for me. I really enjoy that. It feels like everything I do, I'm just sort of lucky to have come across, and it makes me thankful for stuff, and it makes me realize, in the grander scheme of things, one person doesn't matter a lot, and I like that. For some reason, that's calming to me.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
This guy's biggest problem is the hype that built around it. If it had come out without everyone going, "Oh my god, this will be the biggest game ever, the best game ever," this will have so many different options, multiplayer and such, that it would have probably not been received quite the hate that it did.
Well, yeah,
that's God.
I was just going to say, I don't think any game could have possibly been as good as some people were saying No Man's Sky was going to be. I just wanted to build a spaceship and look at creatures and play like Pokemon Snap on an intergalactic level, and I got to do that. Some people went into it very misinformed, and they came away very angry, and I think that's their fault. I also think it's Hello Games' fault, but you have to take a certain amount of personal responsibility for it as well, I think.
Part of it's because we talked, me and Yuki especially, talked about games we didn't particularly like, but are still on the top 10 for various reasons. Yuki's because he had literally nothing else, and me because, as much as I might not like the politics and the personalities that went into making the game and the inherent flaws that went into it, I can still recognize something as being good. At least in terms of Ratchet and Clank, still a good game. It's just, I don't like everything else that went into it.
Sure.
And with No Man's Sky, obviously everyone expected more and better than what they actually got. And for the scale upon which it came from, for what it did and from what it came from, it's remarkable. But its biggest flaw was always the hype.
And Hello Games certainly played a part in that. I think the people who are in favour of No Man's Sky but deny that are doing the game a serious disservice, because I think, I definitely think they played into it. Like if you say the chance is small, that's another way of saying there is a chance.
Yeah.
And there is not a chance. There just isn't. So yeah, this is not like, I don't want to feel like this is a defense of No Man's Sky, because I feel like everything people dislike about it is really legitimate, and I don't care what they have to say.
What you're basically saying, you recognise the game has very deep inherent flaws, but this is more about a game that appealed to you for very specific, very personal reasons.
Yeah.
As opposed to objectively saying, no, I think this was the best game. You're saying, no, this was my best experience in a video game of 2016.
Yeah, in the same way that, like, if during every one of your games and every one of Sam's games, I don't like story in games, you just said, okay, I still liked it. That's what I'm doing to, like, most of the world, pretty much.
Yeah,
that's entirely fair.
Like, I'm trying to be as fair about it as possible, because I know it angers a lot of people that people even like this game. I think just, get a better hobby than being angry at people in England about their video game opinions.
Probably a good thing that you're surrounded by a group of people who literally have no opinions on the game and don't care.
I mean, I had sort of sensed Train might be vaguely anti, and I'm fine with that. There's there's so many reasons to dislike No Man's Sky, and all of them are legitimate, but none of them are in qualities that I value, so it's all right.
Yeah.
Talk about Yuki's mystery #1 slot.
Yeah, before we talk about my total super surprise that no one is going to guess what it's going to be. Shout outs to The Last Guardian that wasn't on any of our lists, despite the fact that game has been in development since like 2011 and everyone was excited for it. Did anyone even play that game?
No idea what it is, mate.
It's like the sequel to that
Eco and
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, Shadow of Colossus.
I wanted to play it, but it's one of those games where it never goes down in price, and everything else also came out around it. Like I've hated this end of this January February time because I bought about 4 different games all in like the space of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know. And not even counting oncoming stuff like Persona 5, which was a game I'm almost positive would have been on both of mine and Sam's lists had it come out.
Yep.
Like, I'll be honest, I'm very tempted just to put it on, just to go, beat you to it.
Well, that's the thing. We can't argue with that because technically it did release this year. Well, last year even.
Because I made allowances for other games. Yeah. So we would have definitely... I wanted to talk about it when I was talking about Cyber Sleuth, because obviously lots of stuff from Persona made it into Cyber Sleuth. But then I realised that what I wanted to do more was sell why Cyber Sleuth is a great game to me. But anyway... I'm sorry to spoil it.
Total mystery game. No one guessed. My #1 is Overwatch. Totally mysterious game. I know not many people have played it or heard of it. It's this first-person shooter made by this company called Blizzard. Pretty small company. Probably never heard of them. Don't think they've ever made anything that was popular, so that's understandable. But yeah, Overwatch
I think they did StarCraft, didn't they?
Huh?
I think they did StarCraft, didn't
they? Maybe.
Again, it's only big. So
I think they made a card game once. So they're probably like Konami, you know, that video game company that everyone loves. So, why do I love Overwatch as much as I do? Apart from the fact that I play it pretty much every day. Not quite every day. The last 2 days I haven't played it, but I will play it literally as soon as we finish recording here. I will move over to playing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can put into perfect words exactly why I love Overwatch as like one reason, and all the things about them saying it doesn't have a story mode, I 100% agree with. We need a single player. They can't just say, here's all this cool backstory about every character, but fuck you if you're getting anything to do with it. You just do it yourself. It's kind of one of those things, sort of like Pokemon Go, where the fans have made it their own. That's really like held it for me. All my friends play it, which is a good start. I don't think I've ever had a single video game in my life that all of my friends play.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
We all play Pokemon, but normally different versions at different times. All of us specifically were playing Overwatch at the same time. And I mean like all of us. Like from Reese to Declan to Sam. People that normally... I've never seen Reese, Declan and Sam playing the same game at the same time, ever. Just ever. That's never happened.
I think even if you take Sam out of that, I can't remember me and Declan playing the same game.
Yeah,
at the
you
same
two have
time.
played games together that I have no interest in playing. Like,
oh yeah, good point actually. We both like Dark Souls 1. Good point.
Stuff like that. Just in general, but like, just even being able to pick any 3 of my friends. Like even Dan actually wasn't playing Overwatch, but he really wanted to. He just didn't have a computer that could play it. He was still talking about it when it was around the time because he was so interested in it. That's another thing. Overwatch is something you can just always talk about. You know, I think Reese mentioned earlier how you could just go up to someone and say, hey, who do you main or whatever. And not only is it that everyone has multiple characters, everyone has a different answer. It's not like if you talk about Street Fighter, it's like, who do you main? Oh, Ryu and Ken because they're the best. I don't know if they're the best. I never play Street Fighter. But, you know, everyone always say, like, the best characters. But tier lists aside, there isn't really a best character in Overwatch, you know? Like, you could say Soldier is arguably better than Genji. It's a simple fact. But if you're a really good Genji, you'd probably win against an average Soldier, like, every time. And that dynamic of every character having a potential to be the best if you want to get good at them.
Well, unless it's Symmetra.
But Symmetra's
Then
really
Genji has no chance.
If it was Ultimate, then yeah, okay, fair enough. I was going to use the example of how I play Mercy, which is incorrectly, and you can all call me a fucking shitlord for it. But goddamn, if I'm not going to kick your ass, shooting you in the face.
Mate, you get results. I'm never gonna downplay your Mercy skills.
The fact that I can solo a Roadhog as Mercy with a pistol, I'm gonna fucking take that to the grave with me. But I don't know. Overwatch is fantastic, and I can understand a lot of the arguments people have against it, and I'm not gonna deny them or say that they're wrong. But to me, I don't think it matters. The way I see if a game is worth it is, did I get value for every pound that I spent on that game? I didn't buy Overwatch, so yes. But if I did, and even if I'd actually bought the limited edition, whatever fuck that Declan got me, I still would have got my value out of it. So, you know what? It's easily my game of the year. Like, I love Pokemon, but as everyone else has said, it is still Pokemon. So, Overwatch is like a new thing. It's different. It's interesting. And I think it's going to keep my attention for many years to come. Especially because it has a good competitive scene, which is also nice. Because Pokemon and stuff, I never really got into the competitive scene. I tried. Kind of suck at it. Sam can attest to that. I'm pretty bad.
Yep. I wouldn't say you're bad at it. You're just not a great team builder.
Oh, sorry. I wouldn't say I'm bad at it. I just tried to put Raticate in my team too much, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much exactly that.
But with Overwatch, I can pick the Raticate of Overwatch, aka Mercy, and still kick ass. So, you know, balance. I like that.
I want to pick up on something while you've just mentioned Mercy. None of the healers feel like you are stuck playing the healer.
Unless you play Mercy correctly.
Yeah.
Well, even then, there's like lots of flying about, and flying is cool.
Oh, yeah.
And like wall riding is cool. Pushing people off the edge is cool.
And
all of Lucio's
cool.
voice lines are cool. And like Sleep Dart is great, and Anna's Grenade is great.
The best
and
ability in the
Zenyatta is like basically a DPS, and that's great. So like that is what I think really keeps me in Overwatch, is that like normally the healer feels like they are stuck playing the healer, and if you play the healer a bunch of times in a row, you get a bit sad because it's the healer. In Overwatch, I personally have never felt that. In fact, I really enjoy all of the kits that all of the healers have.
Yeah, no, I can fully agree with that. Ironically, I barely ever play the healer because Sam and Train are the two best as any players I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm normally playing with one of them, so I never need to. Sometimes I'll play the second healer. Problem is, my favourite to play is Mercy, and I don't really heal people that often. I do heal people, but not as much as they'd probably like me to.
My favourite.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You just said your favourite and you're going quiet.
Oh,
yeah.
My favourite healer is Soldier.
Oh, fair. My favourite healer is Roadhog.
Mine's
no,
Reaper.
May's my favourite healer.
Going off of gold medals, mine's got to be Reaper.
That's because you got healers. I like the selfless healers.
To be fair, I'm pretty selfish with Mercy.
Soldier
I'm
cannot
not
heal off his...
shoot them. So, even then, it's still not. But yeah, if you have anything you want to add to talk about Overwatch, look, I'm happy to talk about Overwatch for a while.
Well, I think the three of us covered it in our talks of Overwatch.
Yeah, I think that was more the problem. Like, I didn't really have too much to say because I've already said it in a video about my top 5 favourite video games of 2016. So I kind of feel like I'm repeating myself, and you guys have all already talked about it. So, sorry, I'm not really adding much here.
I also I just wanted to quickly say it's not often I care about a game that has competitive matchmaking. It was really good to get into that, and I actually cared about getting to Diamond so much, and for 2 weeks it was like, I've got to get Diamond. No, I'm not. Are you at Diamond yet? No, got to keep trying. Get to Diamond. It made me care about competitive. It's not just that there's a scene for it. It's that the way teamwork is in that game. It feels like, okay, so Team Fortress 2 is one of my just general all-time favorite games. If you play that game for 4 hours, very quickly you can see that the heavy and the medic go together very well. And they're just made to be friends. In Overwatch, it feels like there's 16 different times when that relationship exists, you know?
Yeah.
There are so many cases of this person is really good on a team with this other person. And there's also, this person is countered really well by this person. And it makes the team makeup really important.
Yeah.
And I think that's to the game's credit.
Yeah, it's something you got to say. Like in most competitive games, like I was saying earlier, everyone will just pick the same few characters. Like these are the best characters. You know, in Overwatch you could say like, oh, Anna, Roadhog, Reinhardt, they're the best characters. But they have such set in stone counters that if your opponent suddenly picks those counters, you got to think, right, is it worth me still trying to play this character, or should I swap to someone else and completely change our team comp because you kind of need to, or you're going to lose. You know, I love that aspect. Every game feels different. Like there's like 12 maps, probably less than that, and yet still every game feels different. As long as we're not playing on Anubis, which sucks, then you're gonna have a good game, you know. Anubis can suck a big one though. I fucking hate that map.
I actually like every map, and
I like it aesthetically, and I like the concept. I just hate that you literally cannot win the last point unless you're a pro team or lucky. Pro team or lucky is basically your win conditions. You've got to get a team wipe or you lose. It's like, oh, okay, it kind of sucks.
I think it's worth mentioning that the map design is really good, and it does encourage flanking, and it does have choke points which you're clearly meant to center team fights around, and like even that itself encourages team play, and that's just wonderful design, you know.
Yeah, if we're talking about game design, I would happily go on something and argue that Overwatch has, just from a design point of view, the best design. You know exactly what they're going for with the characters, with the levels of everything, and they've done it right. Everything is right. I can't think of anything they've designed incorrectly. And as something you said earlier, with like balance of characters, if there is something a bit off of the balance, they'll just change it as soon as they can until they've perfectly balanced it. I feel like every character in Overwatch is balanced at this point, except maybe some of them could be a bit better. Like Mercy's maybe not as useful as the other healers, but, you know, they'll get there. Like, they're clearly working hard on balancing everyone, and I love that.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about having a PTR, you know? They're like, I'm not actually sure if this change is good. Let's put it on the PTR. Let's see if it sticks. And if it doesn't, it's like, well, it's off the PTR now. We're done. Sorry, we tried.
Yeah.
And, like, that's a really proactive approach to doing it. And, like, their approach to balancing characters is not to make everyone more the same. It's to make them all very good at their specific thing, and that's good.
Like with Winston, everyone's like begging for a Winston buff. It's like, no, Winston is already fantastic at what he does. He's not meant to be killing tanks. If you're trying, stop being Toby, please. Winston is not a tank counter. No.
Yeah, I remember a game where it was like, Winston. It's not in my top 10 heroes, but I think the team needs a Winston, and we started doing it better when I picked a hero who wasn't even in like my better half of heroes, just because like we needed Winston, and I love that.
Oh yeah,
the picks matter so much.
Yes, I feel like anyone who plays this game not as a flex picker is probably playing wrong. I don't like to say you're playing wrong, but when you're just like, no, I'm going to play Genji and I'm only going to play Genji, and the opponent's picked a Winston, it's like, swap off Genji, you're losing, but they won't. It's like, that's not how you should be playing this game, you know? Always being able to just change, even if you're bad at them. Like, I've picked Reinhardt in competitive before. Anyone in the world could tell you I'm the world's worst Reinhardt player, but sometimes you just need something, you know? And if you can, just getting into a game enough to know when you need to swap, like which characters counter what. Like, I've looked into every possible detail of Overwatch. You could say I'm obsessed, and you'd probably be right.
You said, like, you're playing it wrong, like, but you framed it in, like, a skill kind of. I'd say you're playing it wrong in, like, a fun kind of way. Because, like, every character has just the most amazing kit.
All right.
Like, no one feels like, oh, I'm really regretting my time.
Except when you're playing Symmetra. Like, I regret my time every time random heroes go Symmetra. If I can jump off the edge, I will.
I love playing Symmetra.
It's not fun to just be like, oh, I'm near you, you're dead. That wasn't fun. I can also put turrets down and sit on a chair. I like sitting on a chair. That's fun.
I like aiming the right clicks. They're so good.
Yeah, that can be fun. But more often than not,
like
they come near you and you're just like,
three people.
Hold down right trigger. Okay, you're dead now? Yeah, okay. Or left click in your case.
Yeah, I did want to learn how to play Symmetra until she got good, and now I want to learn to play Lucio.
Yeah. Which is ironic, because you now want to learn the second best character in the game, so...
I don't want to learn to play Lucio.
No, you do. No, Lucio...
No, I don't.
Only good...
If they're good, I don't want them.
Only good if you're good at him. He's not good as a character to kill people with or anything. He's good as a... If you're a team of 6, everyone wants a speed boost. Like, he's just speed boost. Come on.
So he's sort of one of those ones with a higher learning curve.
Yeah,
once you're good with him.
Say, oh, he's the easiest to learn, but they're all wrong. And I would argue,
I'd argue
one of
he's
the
actually
hardest characters to learn.
Yeah, I'd argue one of the highest learning curve in the game.
Yeah.
Because, like, the one thing that I'm so looking forward to seeing in 2017 is the evolution of people making actual use of wall riding in competitive games. Because right now it feels severely underutilized. And when that gets going, because like I've seen some shit of what's possible with that. Once that gets going, oh my god, Overwatch is going to be so fun.
Oh yeah, I've got to say, I'm looking forward to watching some worlds and stuff. That's another thing. Most competitive games, even if I like them, like Smash Brothers and stuff, I barely ever watch competitive Smash Brothers because I just, to be honest, could not give a shit. I sometimes watch like Hungrybox play just because I really enjoy watching Jigglypuff kill things. I don't know why, that's just funny to me. But in general, I don't watch it. Overwatch, I watched like most of the world's streams for that for last year because I just enjoyed watching them. It's actually fun to watch. A lot of you earlier said there were some games you really enjoyed watching, and I will say Doom is definitely one of those for me. I did watch someone do an entire playthrough of that because I was really enjoying just watching it, and I'm not into the gory gameplay stuff or whatever, like Mortal Kombat. I hate Mortal Kombat. Something about Doom is just interesting in that way. But I love watching Overwatch. I go from a game that I play for like 8 hours a day and then can sit down and just watch like another hour of it. I've never had a game like that before. It's interesting. But yeah, we should probably do our full list of top 10 now, yeah?
Oh boy.
I've got a bit of a system that has taken out a lot of the work.
Okay.
Basically, I've been like tallying up points. If your number 10 game is worth 1 point, your number 9 game is worth 2 points, and so on and so forth. And so I've been tallying up points. So unsurprisingly, Overwatch is at the top.
Well,
it's got 17.
Four of us had it.
It's only just beaten out Sun and Moon, which only 2 of you had.
Oh.
That's got 16 points.
It was like 3 and 2 respectively, though.
Yeah, I know. That's why.
And an honorary mention from Train as well.
So they're locked in as our top 2.
Can I just point out that means my list is correct because they are my number 1 and 2? Therefore, everything else on this list is incorrect. Go by my list, except the bottom 2. Whatever, you can just chuck some stuff in there.
I've only got 1 so far, and I've not got either of the next 2. Now, for 3 and 4, there are 2 games at 14 points, and I don't have either on my list, so I'm not going to talk about it. Yuki doesn't have either on his list. It's the 2 circle jerkers.
Dude, come on. I didn't know we're going to be on his fucking list.
That's because... I'm not saying you should try this.
Digimon and Deus Ex are tied at 14 points. If you can come to an agreement in which order they should be, then that would be ideal. If not, I will say I would rather play Digimon than Deus Ex.
I would say I would also rather play Digimon. In fact, I was very much looking into getting that very Digimon game, and the literally games just never had it in for any less than like 40 quid. That's the only reason I've never
Having said that, I do think we should let the sound train hash it out.
It's fair.
As to which should go higher.
I think you know where I stand on the matter.
Well, we know where you both stand because you get numerical lists.
Because they're the same place on our list, just inverted. Like, it's second on mine. Well, Deus Ex is second on mine and Digimon's 5th. It's the opposite for you. So, like, what?
World of Final Fantasy was number 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't. Okay. I can't math good.
And apparently.
Shut up. Yeah, I'd be more comfortable putting Deus Ex above it. But considering we've got 2 votes for Digimon, if Train goes Digimon, I can't really argue.
Well, it's really, are either of you willing to flex here? I was going to say to get your number 1 game on the list, but Train's game is Doom, and I'm like hella endorsing Doom.
Yeah, I was going to say,
And it sounds like Yuki is also hella willing to endorse Doom.
Overwatch from that top spot then.
What's that?
I think we can remove Overwatch on the top spot, put the Rightful King on the throne.
No.
No,
The first two are correct, Train. You can be number.
Hey, John Doomguy is like way better. He'd be if John Doomguy was in Overwatch, then we wouldn't have to worry about Tracer skins so much.
Well, we haven't got Doomguy, but we're getting Doom Fist.
That's it.
No, nothing. Okay.
No.
Right.
If you're both going to be inflexible, Sam, I think.
No, I'll flex. Because at the end of the day, if it's a game that appeals more to you guys, then that speaks more about the game than it does my enjoyment of it. So yeah, I'll flex. I'll let Deus Ex go down.
Okay.
So why raise Digimon up and
because more people are enjoying it.
Not even just so much that. I look into everything I got, and we look at the pure facts. Like Deus Ex has a playtime of about, let's be fair and say, 10 hours. Right?
Hang on.
He's looking it up on how long to beat.
Well, not how long to beat, but I've got 35 hours logged.
Okay, so. But I mean, let's be generous. Let's say you weren't just like asking around. If you knew more or less where to go and what to do, roughly. So not accounting for those times where you have literally no idea what you're doing, just kind of wandering around waiting to see what happens or if events trigger in your favor. I'd say roughly 10 hours would be generous versus Digimon, which as an JRPG will take you 60 hours. So already it's technically more value for money if we go off of Yuki's argument of...
Right, can I point out, Yuki's logic is my logic. I gave him that logic.
It is, he's right. And can I also point out that whenever RPGs have that grind time, I hate that, and I'd rather take that away from because it's hours enjoyed, and I do not enjoy grinding.
But see, when I played, I found even the grinding enjoyable just because of how much you could do with it.
Train did specifically mention that he actually enjoys the grinding in Digimon.
That is fair.
I don't. Like, I enjoy raising the Digimon themselves. The grind is the worst part of it. Okay, let's say I've got 40 hours on Digimon and 10 hours on Deus Ex. Out of Deus Ex, I enjoy all of those 10 hours. I do not enjoy all 40 of the hours on Digimon. You know?
Okay.
Like, again, I am still willing to flex, but you're asking me to make my point, and I made it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like that.
Number 5, because I managed to politic Yuki into getting it on his list, is speedrunners.
Yeah.
And then 6 to 11 is all debatable because we have 5 games that got 10 points each, but also one of them is No Man's Sky, and I actually think I would be happier to put Danganronpa 2 on the list instead of No Man's Sky, knowing that if Yuki had played it, it would have at least got a point from him.
It would have got more than 1 point.
I know it would have.
I would
rather back Danganronpa than I would No Man's Sky in any situation.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like, if there are 6 games, we have 5 spots. I am happy to take No Man's Sky off, like make the brave sacrifice, and get Danganronpa 2 because I recognise this is a collaborative list. And like Yuki would hella enjoy that if he'd actually played it.
And it would be nice for you to have any more input onto this list rather than just the top 2, because I'm pretty sure that's the only input I have.
Oh yeah, your only input is the 2 at the top of the fucking list. Jeez.
You know what I mean?
There's also Pokemon Go is one of these at 10 points.
That's
the ones we're debating now. This is just for order. We're keeping them all. Pokemon Go, Final Fantasy 15. Doom, Fire Emblem, and Danganronpa 2.
Well, I think we all know that Doom should be the top of those ones. I feel like that's something we can all agree on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I do agree.
Said with all the effort of passing a gallstone.
I want it second to Pokemon Go.
Okay, well...
Because Pokemon Go's on 2 lists.
I've got to disagree. I've got to...
I mean, as the person who has Pokemon Go on their list, if I looked at them both as a video game, bearing in mind this is the top 10 video games, Doom is easily a better video game. Pokemon Go was a better social experience, and I'd happily put that second. But Doom is a better video game. Like, I don't think any of us can question
If you say that, I have to roll over, because we're the two that had it. And a big part of my argument is two people had Pokemon Go.
That's
so, okay.
fair, but
Doom's
at
the top of that running.
Yeah.
But I would happily argue for Pokemon Go to be second out of the rest of those, if not just because it's on two people's lists, and I forgot what everything else you said was.
Danganronpa 2, Final Fantasy 15 also on two people's lists. Fire Emblem Fates only on one person's list, but it is the number one on that list.
Yes.
So was Doom, okay?
No, but like me and Yuki also recognise if we had played Doom, there's a good chance it would have been.
Oh, and I'm right there with you, but like,
and like I'm fully saying like if I'd played Final Fantasy 15 or Fire Emblem, definitely wouldn't have been on my list.
Fire Emblem might have been for me. Final Fantasy 15 I wouldn't have played, but
yeah.
I feel like if we were opening it to a general audience, more people would have voted, Doom than Final Fantasy. Well, maybe not than Final Fantasy, but more than Fire Emblem. I'm almost
Doom. I think Doom would have definitely outplayed.
Yeah, Doom has topped so many people's games of 2016 lists.
It's just a good game. Anyone can look at that game and say this is a good game. Simple.
Yeah. I'm happy for Final Fantasy to go above Fire Emblem, if not just because it's on both mine and Train's lists.
Okay. I think Final Fantasy 15 has more general appeal. It's an easier game series to get. It's an easier game to get into.
Yeah,
whereas Fire Emblem definitely has a much wider learning curve. It's a lot. I won't want to say it's not as new. It's not quite as new player friendly, but yeah, kind of that.
Yeah, I am happy for Fate to be at the bottom of the list.
Are you actually? Oh, that's excellent.
Great.
Because I know I'm going to be the only one who's arguing its case, and I can't deny any of the detractors. So
I won't mind arguing for it that it's clearly a good game. Not that I've played it specifically, but just how Fire Emblem works. But then again, I'm also would be arguing for Danganronpa and probably would prefer that. So that's.
I was about to say, like, my argument would have been, I feel like I've got at least 2 points if he would have played it. So I'd like to have put Danganronpa above it, but having you saying that you're happy with it at the bottom,
I'm happy with it at the bottom.
So are
although
we now
compared,
choosing between 8th and 7th between Pokemon Go and Final Fantasy?
Yeah,
and that's actually split us right down the middle, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That has split us right down the middle.
Well then, who wants to make the case first?
I feel like Pokemon Go offers something that nothing on anyone else's list offers, and something that is rarely seen in games itself. It's unified a hell of a lot of people, and I think there's something incredibly valuable to that. Whereas I feel like Final Fantasy is a good Final Fantasy, and there have been other good Final Fantasies.
That's a good argument. I can agree with that completely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd hope you would. You're the other one with Pokemon Go.
I'm just
really
on solid.
Yeah, like the problem is I'm the linchpin here because I've actually played both. Trainer hasn't played Pogo.
True.
And the problem I have with Pogo, like, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun playing Pogo, but it's not a very good game.
No, wherever it goes on this list, it is the least fun to play of any of these 10, and possibly the least fun of any of the 39 that aren't Pokken Tournament.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I recognise that, like, not being fun is quite a downside for a video game.
I'd argue it's the biggest downside here. So,
but I feel like the fun and the gameplay is the friends you made along the way, Sam.
Yeah, like
the fact that everyone who has played it, even though they admit that it's a bad game, has said they had fun while playing it, has got to attest to something.
Yeah, but then like this is the exact same reason why Overwatch was very bottom of my list, because I can't deny I had fun playing it, but I didn't have fun because of the game. I had fun because I was hanging out with my friends.
Right. But what's wrong with a game just existing to be a social game? Social games are a thing. Well, Pokemon Go is a thing.
Let me pitch it like this then. How many doors has Pokemon Go opened for games in the future and experiences in the future, and like other games that could follow on in this style of bringing people together? And how much has Final Fantasy 15 inspired in contrast?
Well, now we're judging artistic merit over.
You can't even argue that, because you have literally no idea what will and won't be influential in terms of anyone. Like, you're talking about events that haven't happened yet, and for all we know, might never happen. Like, people might not look at Pokemon Go and Final Fantasy 15 and go, "Oh, those were linchpins in my development along my career."
You're right. We can't talk about what could happen in the future. Me and Yuki might not enjoy Doom. Let's take it off the list.
Ah, yeah, fair.
I agree with you, Train. Doom is a bad game.
Okay. I mean, I'd at least admire the consistency. You'd still have an actually wrong opinion, but, you know, at least you'd be consistently wrong.
Oh, we went for nearly 3 fucking hours without you saying those 2 bloody words.
You know.
Hey, Sam, at least it wasn't directed at you this time.
I know, right?
For you to say something that would actually be worth me saying that you have a wrong opinion, but you held back today. I was impressed.
Glorious hours of my life.
You get a gold star today, Sam. Reese is the wrong one.
Am I really the one you want to be insulting when I'm trying to get your game higher on the list?
I gave you a gold star. That's like the complete opposite of an insult. That's praise. You did good today.
Yeah, and you do it in the same context. You know what? Fuck it. Like, I can't deny its potential merit in the future, but I feel your argument, the crux of it is its artistic merit versus its quality.
It totally is. Like, I'm not.
And that is an ultimate case by case basis.
I'd say social rather than artistic. But...
Yeah, well, yeah, but you said like what sort of things it can inspire in the future.
In the sense of games that can get you outside and games that can bring people together, yeah. I hella value the social experience of Pokemon Go and any game in the future that is like it. It just happens that Pokemon Go was the first one. It's on this scale. It's innovative and it's done a social service for gaming that I don't think any other game can claim to have done.
Yeah, but it comes down to the argument of, is it a good game?
All right, then, let's put it like this. In time, Pokemon Go is going to get developed and updated, and it's being updated all the time, and it's going to become a better game. Final Fantasy 15 is not going to change as much, I would say.
We're waiting for it. He says this as we're literally waiting on a patch that's going to massively revamp one of the chapters and alter it, and for the fans, for free.
I get your point there, but as a counterpoint, there is a time, however far in the future it may be, that Pokemon Go will no longer exist. And from that point, even then, I don't think its development cycle is going to last another year, frankly. Just because of the sheer drop-off in popularity.
Yeah.
Like, if there's one thing that we learned from Flappy Bird, it's that things can be taken away, never to be found again. Whereas, no, ignore me. That's a terrible argument.
I feel like the difference there is that, like, Pokemon Go is clearly so much a piece of the puzzle in that there are however many Pokemon there are, and there's 150 or 60 something in Pokemon Go.
All right. Give it a Pogo.
Yes.
Because it is, if nothing else, a unique spot on the list. It doesn't really do what anything other game on this list does, and
I also
everyone
feel
is
like...
going to think fondly of... Go on.
I was also going to say, like, Train, like, we automatically gave Doom the 6th spot, you know?
But you gotta have, the whole point of the discussion is you gotta have counterpoints, right?
No, that's fine.
Only when they don't benefit me.
Well, I was waiting. Well, I'm not exactly going to go and turn around and say, "Oh, right, yeah, well, Doom's not actually the best game of 2016." I was waiting for one of you people to tell me why Doom was not the best game of 2016.
We can't tell you. We haven't played it.
Hey, I threw No Man's Sky in front of a bus. Like, I was like, well, one of these games has to go. It's
that's. It looks so hideous. Then you got hit by a bus. Makes sense now.
Hey, I sacrificed Fates as well.
No, yours is still on the list. It's just lower. I threw mine off the list.
Yeah.
Still above mine.
It's a difference between kicking something in the shin and, like, kicking something into the bottomless Sparta pit, you know?
Okay, but which one do you remember? You remember the Sparta pit.
That's true. So, the final list. Overwatch, number 1. Pokemon Sun and Moon, number 2. Digimon, the long title, number 3.
I'm a sleuth. Hell, dude.
Hasn't it got, like, more to it than that?
Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth.
Oh, okay. I thought it was way longer.
Danganronpa has a title.
Yeah!
I guess. You have a good point. Deus Ex, number 4. Speedrunners, number 5. Doom, number 6. Although even now I'm thinking, like, Doom should possibly go higher than Speedrunners.
Probably. Because to be fair, you've put Speedrunners on there on the assumption that, yes, I did enjoy the game, but technically I didn't put it on my list.
I'm actually moving Doom above Speedrunners. So yeah, Doom number 5. Speedrunners 6. Pokemon Go 7. Final Fantasy 15 8. Danganronpa 2 number 9. Then Fire Emblem 10. That's it. That's the Game of the Year 2016 list.
Yay.
We've done it in February. Yay.
Well,
better than some people do it in fucking December.
Yeah, there's not a point there.
Yeah.
I mean, the awards are in February, aren't they?
What's that?
Yeah, February, aren't they?
I still didn't quite catch that.
Season tends to be around, like, you know, late winter. Being around,
the actual Game of the Year things, they tend to be around this time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, I wanted to say one of the rules I had set out for people when they were making their list is that I'd also include stuff from December 2015, because you wouldn't get a full chance to play it necessarily. And basically, I wanted to include as many games as possible. I am invoking that rule forward for next year, because there's a game from December last year which I am readying to have on my list already.
Cool. I don't know what came out in December 2015. I didn't look, so I don't know if I played anything that came out then.
Well, spoiler alert, there's probably going to be another Fire Emblem title on my thing next year.
Right, I look forward to coming back to this next year and opening with how much I regret not having Pokemon on my list.
That'll be a good
opening. What's that?
So that'll be a good opening. Good way to start the video, you know?
I know.
It's like, hi guys, how you doing? I was so fucking wrong.
Basically be it. I might, I'll hate myself if No Man's Sky is not even in my top 10 by then. What if it just drops off completely? Yeah. What if I have the weird crystallizing moment?
Christ.
About next year's Game of the Year list is where exactly will me and Sam put Persona 5?
Depends.
Number 1.
I mean, it's possible. I hear a lot of good things about Persona 5.
If you both have it as number 1, then it's going to be very hard to get anything other than that as number 1 overall.
Nah, me and Grace, we just got a collab and work out what our favourite game is, even though we probably won't play
It's not a versus thing, guys.
Well, it wasn't. It is now.
Yeah, you've made it a fucking competition.
Everything's a competition if you want it to be.
I don't.
This is about finding out what is the best, right? So therefore, it has to be competitive, because you can't have the best in a non-competitive environment. Then you just have people or entries, contestants, and that's not fun. It's like this bollocks they tell of you. Oh, everyone who participated is a winner. No, one person is the winner. Everyone else is just varying degrees of loser.
I think this is a lovely sentiment to end on.
Race.
Yeah, that's fair. I can agree with that.
Most of you are losers. Good night, everyone.
Just wanted to add a quick addendum to my list. The others don't know I'm doing this, but Reese said something in the Discord chat just after we finished recording, and he said, "How come you never mentioned Pokemon Uranium?" And I totally forgot that the final release of Pokemon Uranium happened last year in 2016, because my computer broke just after it came out and I barely got to play it. I mean, you saw I started, if you watch my videos, you saw I started playing it again. But I totally forgot that was last year. That was 2016. Pokemon Uranium probably would have been like easily in my top 3 games. Like, I adore that game and its creators. I respect them so much. I won't rant about it now or ramble because these videos were long enough. I just wanted to mention, no, I just forgot that that finally came out last year as a full game. So apologies. Yes, Pokemon Uranium should be on my list. Yes, it should be in the top 10 games of the year easily. Sorry, I missed it. Just there you go. I'm chucking that in there.